Hi. In today's Crafting with Kathy with a Christmas theme, we're going to be creating some alcohol ink gift ideas. So we're going to be painting up with alcohol inks a bauble and a vase, and see if we get time to do some other things as well. So I'm using the Pinata alcohol inks in various colours, and to start with I'm actually going to be using my applicator with a felt pad on the bottom of it. That so you can see it. You'll notice I'm wearing gloves. This is because they do stain, but also the alcohol can be very drying on your hands. So it's just to give myself a bit of protection there. And we are working in a rather large space here. You do want to make sure that you're working in a well ventilated area while you're working with your alcohol inks. Okay, so let's see. I've got just a very plain bauble, and I've put a strap on it so that we can hang it up to dry. And I'm going to try and limit myself to just using a bit of red on this one. So I've got the chili pepper red, and then we can add some gold glitter in later. And I'm just going to put some drops onto my felt pad and add some of the Claro, which is the extender. So that gives us a little bit more drying time. Just going to press that pad on, make sure it's really sticking to the Velcro on there. And of course that gets colour on my hands already. And we basically just pounce onto our bauble until we build up a nice amount of colour, a nice amount of pattern. Now I can see already I'm going to need to get some more red close to the edge of my pad so that I can get right up to the top of the bauble there. So let's add some red in around the edge there, and a little bit of our Claro as well. Now I should be able to get closer to that top of the bauble there. Excellent. Now by doing this pouncing technique, you do get quite a marbled type look, which is what I'm wanting. I don't need it to be too even. And I'm probably going to give it a bit of a spritz with some alcohol just to make the colours move. Now I'm trying to limit myself here to just using the one colour. I love the idea of using some gold or brass in with it, but I want to be able to put gold glitter over the top. And I'm worried that if I use gold or brass, that it's then going to, in a way, clash with my gold glitter. So we're going to stick to just one colour and then come back later and put some gold glitter on. So don't try, you can make it really even, but in a way, if you make it all even, you may as well have just bought a red bauble. So by making it, using the alcohol inks for what they do, which is creating this wonderful marbly textured effect, that's giving you a reason to actually be doing this technique. So I'm resting it on my mat when I can, and then I'm going to have to hold it up a little bit when I run out of clean bauble to rest on the mat. Now I feel like I'm running out of colour a bit, so I'm just going to add some more. So while I'm doing that, I might just hang the bauble up here. Matthew's created a lovely hanging space for me. So let's add some extra colour. Felt like I was actually touching it then, but I'm not, I'm well away from it. A bit more of our Claro. So our Claro is our extender. A Claro extends the drying times of the inks without lifting colour away. Whereas if we use alcohol with it, with a cleanup solution, it will actually lift a bit of colour off. So they do create different effects. Both work really well, but you just get different effects. And I do find that on some surfaces, I'm actually better working with the Claro rather than the cleanup. In particular, something like this where I want intensity of colour. If I was working with the alcohol ink, the alcohol on my pad, it would actually be lifting some of the colour away from it. Now, if you want to, you could sit your bauble to dry, just do one side and hang it up to dry for a bit before you do the other side. I'm of course trying to do the whole lot in one go. So now I've got some alcohol in a spray bottle, and I'm just going to hold this up and spray towards Matthew and just give a little mist. And if we get a close up, you should see the colour will have moved a little bit just where the alcohol spray has hit it. Let's do a bit of a spray with a close up on it. And we should just get a little bit of movement happening. So now we're going to hang that up here and play with something else, and then we'll come back to that one and add a bit more to it. So I'm now going to change my pad from the red one and put a teal one on that I was playing with a little bit earlier. Press it on, make sure it's good and attached. So now I'm working with teal, and I think we'll add some Baja blue in with this one as well. And this time we are going to be putting some metallic on as well. What have I chosen? Gold. So we've got Baja blue and teal. Leave it with those at the moment. We can always, with alcohol inks, you can always add more. If I decide it needs some darker blue, I can add some sapphire and come in and keep playing with it. Now your metallics always need a really good shake. So what I'm working on here is a little vase that I got at the op shop. And I'm going to put our colours on our pad. Some Baja blue and some of our beautiful metallic gold. And let's start just pouncing on the glass. Now, go over it a bit, move the pad around so you're pouncing. I don't want to just get dots of gold. I want that to blend in with the other colours. So if I keep going over it, that will all start becoming a pattern rather than just dots. Now, depending on your surface, it will change what tool you use to apply your ink. So this glass is a fairly smooth surface, so it works well for the pouncing. I could apply the inks directly, but they're actually going to run around a lot on a circular surface, except that one's not running too much. It's going to be harder for me to spread it out unless I was looking for the wispy look, and then I'd be using my blower. Bit of clear on there. Using my blower to move it around, which can create some great effects. But on this particular item, I'm wanting more of a coverage over the whole thing. Your wispy look is good if you don't need coverage over the whole lot. And I'm actually going to be doing another piece later where we do it with a wispy look. Let's add some little bit more gold in there. A bit more Claro to it. And we're going to do some more pouncing with our gold. Hoping that you can see what I'm doing. This is a tricky one to do so that you can see it and that I can see what I'm doing too. I'm hoping this is going to make a really nice ornament that will then be able to have like a tea light candle or something put in it and will look really pretty. What do you think? Do we need to go a bit darker? Do we need to have a little bit of sapphire blue in there as well? Or are we liking those colours as they are? Let's try going a little bit more Baja blue. Stick to the lighter ones at the moment, see how I'm liking it. I'm just going to pick up that bit of gold that I dropped on my mat there because I don't want to waste it. And of course, a couple more drops of Claro, keep these colours moving. Now on this vase, because it's got cracks in it, in the glass, hopefully the alcohol ink is going to settle into those cracks and actually make it look, bring those out and make them look more obvious. As I said, you can just keep going over it and keep adding more until you're happy with it. So when you start getting some of these patterns in it, that's when it starts to look really good. So first I want to make sure I've covered the whole thing. And then we're just now pouncing randomly just to basically break up the colours and get more patterns rather than, as I said, I don't want dots of colour, I want patterns of colour happening. So can you imagine that now with something like a tea light candle in it? I think it would look fantastic. Just saw a bit there that I hadn't covered. And I feel that the alcohol inks have actually made the cracks in it look more obvious. If you wanted to actually create more like a gold border around the top of it, we could actually come back in with the gold and actually just pounce more on that area. We could do the same down at the base, put more gold on the base there. So creating a little bit more effect with our colour. How cool is that? Okay, how are we going for time? All right, I'm going to keep playing with some other things. I think that's going to sit nice and dry on its own there. So the other thing that I've got here to play with is a pine cone. Now this one, if we just drip colours onto this, they just run in the grooves. If I just pounce it, on the smoother parts I get to it, but on these rough bits, it just gets to like the ends of it. So we've got to actually get a little bit more creative with this one. And I'm actually using a little bit of brass on this and deciding that I'd like to change up the colours. We're going to use the Sapphire blue, Rainforest green, and the brass. Oh, that's gold, there's brass. Okay. So again, give the brass a good shake. I'll just change my pad for a fresh one. So we'll start off with the blue and green and just show you how it doesn't get into all the crevices. Okay, so if I pop a bit of green on the pad and a little bit of Claro again, give us our extender. So if I'm going over the smoother areas, I can actually get some colour on. But when I'm getting to the rougher areas of the pine cone, we're really just getting it onto the tips of those spines, which is fine because we can do that and then grab some of the Sapphire blue, and I've just got a little brush, just a rough brush standing by here. So I'm going to grab a bit of blue and drop it into those crevices and drop a bit of brass in there as well. You can see it's running everywhere. And now I'm going to get my brush and just pounce it around. So you can see your tools that you use for your applying may change depending on what surface you're looking at attacking. Is that the right way to say attacking with your alcohol inks? And we're getting some lovely lines of brass going through there. Let's put a bit of sapphire down here and very quickly start doing some pouncing around before it moves everywhere. Add a bit more brass in there. So my idea is to get blue sort of in the more of the crevices and the green more on the raised parts. But of course it's going to be all mixed everywhere. And then we could actually come in with just our brass on our pad and just pick up more on the raised parts. How cool is that looking? So you're starting to get some ideas of some of the really groovy stuff you can do with these inks. Now you'll notice that this pine cone is white. That's because I gave it a coat of just a satiny, I just used an acrylic satin house paint, just so it gives it a non-porous surface, which will then take the inks. If I was just doing it over the actual pine cone itself, it would be way too absorbent. So let's get some more green up here. Let's try and get at least one side finished so you can see it. So green on those bits. Let's get some blue in our crevices. And of course you could decorate them up with whatever colour theme you were doing for Christmas this year. So if you're doing a red and gold theme or red and green, that's the colours that we'd use. Hearing a thump in the background, I think a bird might just have hit the roof. Okay, so if we want more colour down there, we could add a bit more blue in there or leave that looking more greenish. You can just keep playing and playing, it's awesome. I'll let those bits dry a little bit and play down here a bit more. And of course, like we did on the bauble, I could spritz it with alcohol and make the inks move a bit more. And I'd probably with something like this, work one side of it and then work the other side. So I've got somewhere to sit it for it to dry rather than getting fingerprints happening everywhere. And so now I'm going to come in with some of the brass. And just pick up on on those raised parts. And that is magic. How pretty is that? Wouldn't that look great with a whole lot of these either in a Christmas basket or nestled at the base of your tree? That's beautiful. All right, let's go back to our first bauble, and I might take my gloves off now because they're covered in blue, and move some of these out of the way. I'm not going to put the lid on the brush yet because I want to give that a good clean before I pop it away. The alcohol inks can build up around your lids, which can make the lid stick on, but also it means when you undo them, you get powdery alcohol ink going everywhere, which isn't so bad until it actually gets all over everything. Okay, so let's bring our bauble back into view. And it has dried really well because the alcohol inks dry really quickly. So now we've got to decide what we're going to do with it. So you could put strips of washi tape around. I actually had someone ask how you would put the picture of someone on a bauble and then could you colour it up with alcohol inks. I don't think it would really work. I think you could put the picture on with some Mod Podge and maybe sponge acrylic paint on it, but I think the alcohol inks are a bit too uncontrollable. They'd be too likely to get over the top of the picture. It's possible, but it could be a little bit tricky to do it. But all I'm going to do here today is just put some glitter on. So yeah, we could run washi tape around, we could run our glitter in lines, but that's going to be a little bit tricky to get the line straight unless you put a line of tape on and then did your glitter above and below the tape. You could actually put someone's name on the bauble in glitter. You could just do some dots and just do those random sizes and a random pattern. So we could just add some gold dots. We could certainly do some swirls. Or, as I said, you could do someone's name. Now, you could actually, I would work out what I was going to write for the name on just a bit of paper before I attacked a bauble. But let's just have a bit of a go. So I'm giving the Stickles a squeeze as I go. We're going to make a little bit of a curl there. S starts there. I'm writing upside down, so I've got to think which way do the letters go. Do a big swirl on the S. Now Matthew's going to tell me that I've done my E back to front. So you could write on it. So anything with the gold glitter is going to just stand out beautifully from that red. And then we could just spray it with a sealer spray and then pop a little bit of a coat of lacquer over the top. And make ourselves a stunning homemade decoration. Hang on, don't twirl quite so much. Just sit there a little bit. And it's so easy, isn't it? Okay, let's pop that one up. So we've got our bauble, we've got a vase, which is going to look wonderful with a tea light candle in, and just fabulous that you can just repurpose something that you can just pick up at the op shop. Or we can create our own things from nature. Gum nuts would look fabulous as well, gum leaves, all sorts of things. So I hope you get some ideas here of how you can create some decorating ideas for home, as well as some gift ideas of things that you can do for someone else as a present. And have fun with your alcohol inks. Okay, so I hope I've given you lots of ideas, and we'll be back soon with another Crafting with Kathy. Thanks for watching.